Imagine for a moment that you are lying in bed, weakened by sickness, the weight of uncertainty pressing upon you. The doctors have done their best, and the medicines have run their course. But the battle is not just in the body, it is in the mind and soul. This is where the Psalms step in, not as mere words, but as a balm for the weary, a stronghold for the weak. And there are three Psalms in particular that serve as a remedy for any affliction, whether of the body, the heart, or the spirit. They do not promise an instant cure, but they offer something far greater, the presence of God in the midst of our suffering. There is a reason why people in times of danger turn to Psalm 91. It speaks of a shelter, a refuge, a place where no evil can touch you. It does not say that hardship will never come. Rather, it says that even when it does, you are not alone. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Notice the condition, he who dwells. Healing is not about demanding a miracle. It is about resting in God's shadow. The disease may remain, but fear does not have to. The pain may persist, but despair does not have to. It is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of God that makes this psalm a cure. Most of us know these words by heart, yet we often miss their true power. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. Think about that. He restores my soul. More than healing the body, he restores what disease can take away: peace, hope, and the will to keep walking. Notice, too, that this psalm does not promise a life without valleys. Instead, it assures us that even in the valley of the shadow of death, we fear no evil. Why? Not because the valley is removed, but because he is with us. Many times, when people seek healing, they are asking for the removal of pain, but God, in his wisdom, sometimes chooses to walk with us through the valley rather than lifting us out of it. The greater miracle is not always the disappearance of disease, but the presence of peace despite it. When sickness comes, it often brings with it doubt. Has God forgotten me? But Psalm 1:3 commands us to remember, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits, who forgives all your iniquities, who heals all your diseases." Healing begins with remembering. Before the sickness, before the struggle, God has been faithful. This psalm does not say he might heal, but he heals. Healing is not just what God does, it is who he is. Yet notice the order in the verse. First he forgives, then he heals. Often the deeper disease is not the one in our body, but the one in our soul. And that is the ultimate cure. The healing of our hearts, the lifting of our burdens, the restoration of our relationship with the one who made us. So, do these psalms cure every disease? Perhaps not in the way we expect, but they cure something deeper, the disease of fear, of despair, of feeling abandoned in suffering. They remind us that healing is not just about avoiding pain, but about discovering God in the midst of it. A man once prayed for healing and said, "Lord, take away my pain." And God said, "I will give you something better. I will walk with you through it." That is the true cure, the presence of the healer himself. Healing is often thought of in the context of physical recovery, broken bones mending, diseases being cured, and wounds closing. However, healing extends far beyond the realm of the physical. It is a process that touches every part of human existence, encompassing emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions. A person can be free of illness yet still be deeply wounded in ways that no medicine can reach. True healing is not merely the absence of pain, but the restoration of wholeness. Consider someone who has endured a great loss. The grief they experience is not a physical ailment, yet it affects them just as profoundly. Their body may be healthy, but their heart feels broken. No doctor can prescribe a pill to mend a shattered spirit, and no surgery can remove the weight of sorrow. Yet with time, support, and inner strength, healing occurs. They learn to live again, not because the pain has been erased, but because they have found a way to carry it differently. Their healing does not mean forgetting the one they lost, but rather integrating that loss into their life in a way that allows them to move forward. This kind of healing is just as real as the mending of a wound. Mental healing is another aspect that is often overlooked. Many people walk through life burdened with anxiety, depression, or trauma. These struggles do not always show on the surface, but they shape a person's world just as surely as a physical illness. Someone may appear perfectly fine, yet inside they are battling thoughts that threaten to consume them. Healing in this realm does not come through a simple cure, but through a journey, one that involves self-discovery, patience, and often the help of others. It may involve therapy, spiritual reflection, or deep conversations with a trusted friend. Over time, the weight begins to lift, not necessarily because the struggles vanish, but because the person has learned how to manage them. They find new ways to cope, new perspectives that help them reframe their pain. Healing here is not about returning to who they were before, but becoming stronger and more resilient through the process. Relationships, too, require healing. Human beings are deeply connected to one another, and when relationships are broken, through betrayal, misunderstanding, or distance, it leaves wounds that are not visible but are deeply felt. The pain of a lost friendship, a fractured family bond, or a love that has faded can linger for years. Yet healing in relationships does not always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it means accepting that certain relationships have changed, that some people are not meant to stay in our lives, and that forgiveness is more about freeing ourselves than about restoring what was lost. Other times, healing comes when two people find their way back to each other, mending what was broken through honesty, humility, and love. Either way, the process of healing relationships requires patience and a willingness to grow. It is not about erasing the past, but about finding peace with it. Then there is spiritual healing, which touches the deepest part of who we are. Many people go through life feeling disconnected from their purpose, from others, or from God. They may feel lost, burdened by guilt, or distant from what once gave them meaning. This kind of wound is not one that the world recognizes easily, yet it affects everything: our outlook on life, our sense of peace, and our ability to love. Spiritual healing is often about rediscovering faith, whether in God, in humanity, or in oneself. It is about coming to terms with past mistakes, releasing burdens that were never meant to be carried alone, and finding a renewed sense of purpose. This kind of healing does not always happen instantly. Sometimes it is a slow process, unfolding over years as a person grows, questions, and learns to trust again. Healing, in all its forms, does not mean that things go back to the way they were before. Sometimes they do, but often, healing means finding a new way forward. A person who recovers from an illness may never be exactly the same again, but they may have a deeper appreciation for life. Someone who has healed from heartbreak may never love in the same way, but they may love more wisely. A person who has found peace after a long struggle with anxiety may still have difficult days, but they no longer feel controlled by their fears. Healing is not about perfection, it is about restoration. The process of healing requires patience, as it rarely happens overnight. Just as a physical wound takes time to close, emotional and spiritual wounds need time to mend. It requires support because no one heals alone. Even in the case of physical recovery, a person relies on doctors, medicine, and the care of loved ones. Emotional and spiritual healing is no different. It often takes the presence of others who can listen, encourage, and walk alongside us. Healing also demands a willingness to change. It asks that we let go of old ways of thinking, that we confront painful truths, and that we open ourselves to the possibility of something new. One of the most difficult aspects of healing is that it does not always look the way we expect. A person may pray for physical healing and instead receive the strength to endure their suffering with grace. Another may hope for the restoration of a broken relationship, but instead find peace in letting go. Healing does not always mean that pain disappears. Sometimes it means that we are given the ability to carry it without being crushed by it. In every form of healing, there is a transformation. The person who has been healed is rarely the same as they were before. They have grown, learned, and changed through the process. They may have scars, whether visible or invisible, but those scars tell a story. not just of pain, but of resilience, endurance, and ultimately hope. Healing is not just about overcoming suffering, but about discovering something deeper in the midst of it. It is about learning that even in our weakest moments, there is strength to be found. Faith is often spoken of in terms of belief, a conviction in something unseen, something beyond the physical world. Yet, faith is not merely an abstract idea or a set of religious doctrines. It is a force that transcends the limitations of the material world. It moves beyond what can be touched, measured, or understood by human reasoning alone. Faith operates where logic ends, where circumstances seem impossible, and where human strength is no longer sufficient. It is the bridge between what is and what could be, the unseen foundation that sustains people through suffering, uncertainty, and trials. While the physical world presents limitations, disease, pain, loss, and hardship, faith reaches beyond those limits and offers something that science, medicine, and human effort cannot always provide: peace, hope, and assurance. A person facing a terminal illness may have access to the best medical treatments, but medicine alone does not heal the fear, anxiety, or sense of loss that often accompanies such a diagnosis. The body may weaken, but faith strengthens the spirit. Many who have faced severe illness have testified that while their physical condition worsened, their faith deepened, allowing them to experience peace in the face of suffering. This is because faith is not bound by the rules of the material world. It does not depend on a doctor's report or medical advancements. It offers a perspective that goes beyond the immediate reality and sees something greater at work. While the physical body may deteriorate, faith assures a person that they are more than just their body, that their existence has meaning beyond what is seen, and that suffering is not the end of the story. Faith also transcends the physical in the way it transforms the human heart and mind. People who have suffered immense loss, whether it be the death of a loved one, financial ruin, or personal betrayal, often find themselves in a place where the physical world offers no solution. There is no reversal for death, no way to undo certain tragedies, no medicine that can erase heartbreak. Yet faith allows a person to endure what seems unbearable. It gives them the ability to stand when everything around them has collapsed. It does not necessarily remove the pain, but it reshapes the way they experience it. Faith turns grief into a journey of remembrance rather than despair, turns hardship into a path of growth rather than destruction, and turns failure into an opportunity to begin again. When someone loses everything, it would be logical to assume that they would be consumed by hopelessness. Yet there are countless stories of people who, despite losing their wealth, their health, or even their loved ones, have continued forward with strength. What sustains them is not physical security, but faith. Faith is the inner assurance that what is seen is not all there is, that even in darkness there is a purpose, and that no suffering is meaningless. It provides a strength that defies circumstances, allowing people to walk through fire without being consumed by it. It does not deny reality, but rather redefines it. Faith also enables people to act beyond what is humanly reasonable. Many of history's greatest moments of courage and sacrifice were driven not by logic, but by faith. People have risked their lives to save others, stood for truth against overwhelming opposition, and pursued justice despite impossible odds, all because of faith. They believed in something greater than themselves, something beyond what could be immediately proven or guaranteed. Faith moves people to go beyond self-preservation, beyond comfort, beyond personal gain. It allows a person to give when they have little, to love when they have been hurt, and to hope when everything around them suggests despair. In times of war and persecution, faith has sustained people when all else has failed. Prisoners who have been tortured for their beliefs, refugees who have lost everything, and individuals who have faced oppression and cruelty have endured not because of physical strength, but because of faith. Faith allows a person to hold on to dignity when they have been stripped of everything. It reminds them that their worth is not determined by their situation. It whispers that even in suffering, they are not alone, that there is a purpose beyond what they can see. Even in ordinary life, faith plays a role that transcends the physical. Every act of trust, every dream pursued, every step into the unknown requires faith. A person takes a new job without knowing what the future holds, moves to a new country without certainty of success, or invests in a relationship without guarantees. These actions require faith, not just religious faith, but the deep internal belief that something good is possible, even when there is no immediate proof. Without faith, fear would paralyze every decision, and no progress would be made. The greatest innovations, the most daring journeys, the most profound human connections, all are built on faith. Faith is also what allows people to see beyond themselves. It removes the obsession with temporary, material things and shifts the focus to eternal values. In a world that prioritizes wealth, success, and status, faith reminds people that these things are fleeting. It teaches that true fulfillment is not found in possessions but in purpose, not in personal achievement but in service to others. Faith allows a person to find joy in simplicity, to be content even when they lack, and to give generously without fear of losing. It shifts the measure of success from external rewards to internal peace. When physical limitations arise, whether through illness, aging, or other constraints, faith remains untouched. A person may lose their ability to walk, but faith allows them to keep moving forward in spirit. A person may lose their sight, but faith enables them to see beyond the visible. A person may lose their voice, but faith ensures that their message still speaks. The body is temporary, fragile, and subject to decay, but faith endures beyond the body. It is why some of the most inspiring individuals in history were not those who were physically strong, but those who had an unshakable faith. Faith transcends the physical because it does not depend on circumstances. It remains unshaken whether a person is in abundance or in need, in health or in suffering, in success or in failure. It allows people to walk through life with confidence, not because they know what the future holds, but because they trust in something greater than what they can see. It is the foundation that stands when everything else crumbles, the light that remains when darkness falls, the anchor that holds when storms rage. Faith does not erase the difficulties of life, but it transforms the way they are faced. It lifts the human heart beyond what is seen and into the realm of what is eternal, proving that what is most real is often what cannot be touched. There is a profound mystery in the way the human soul responds to suffering, especially in the face of disease. When the body is afflicted, the mind and spirit are also affected. Fear, anxiety, and hopelessness often accompany physical illness, making recovery as much a spiritual battle as a medical one. While medicine can treat symptoms and doctors can offer their expertise, there are times when healing requires something deeper. The Psalms, written centuries ago, continue to speak into the hearts of those who suffer, offering not just comfort, but a source of true healing. They do not merely contain poetic expressions of faith, they serve as a remedy for the soul, restoring peace, strength, and trust in God's care even in the midst of affliction. One of the greatest struggles during sickness is fear. The unknown looms large and questions arise about the future. Will the body recover? Will the pain end? What if the worst happens? Fear can be more paralyzing than the illness itself, robbing a person of their peace long before the body has given up. The assurance of divine protection becomes crucial in such times, reminding the afflicted that they are not alone. There is a place of refuge, a shelter where no evil can truly harm them. This does not mean that suffering will never come, but that even in suffering, they are not abandoned. The presence of God is a fortress, and though the world may shake, those who take refuge in Him remain secure. The promise of divine oversight does not guarantee that disease will never touch the body, but it guarantees that fear will not overcome the soul. Beyond fear, sickness often brings with it an overwhelming sense of weakness. The body that once moved freely now struggles to perform the simplest tasks. The mind that once planned for the future now wrestles with uncertainty. It is easy to feel powerless, to believe that strength has left for good, yet there is a restoration that goes beyond the physical, a renewal of the soul that brings peace even when the body remains weak. It is the knowledge that a person is not defined by their condition, but by the care of the one who leads them. Green pastures and still waters may not always be found in external circumstances, but they can exist in the heart of a person who knows they are guided by hands stronger than their own. Even in the valley where shadows threaten, there is no reason to fear, for the presence of the divine is nearer than the suffering itself. A person suffering from disease often finds themselves questioning why such affliction has come upon them. Doubt creeps in, whispering that they have been forgotten, that healing is out of reach, that perhaps their suffering has no purpose. In these moments, it becomes essential to remember the benefits of God, to recall that He is not distant, nor is He indifferent to pain. The very act of remembering can become a source of healing. When the mind begins to list the countless moments of grace received in the past, the heart gains the strength to trust for the present. The one who has healed before is the same today, and though the method may differ, the intention remains the same. Healing may come in the form of a miracle, or it may come through the strengthening of the spirit, but in every case, it is real. The power of healing is not always in the immediate removal of pain, but in the ability to endure without losing faith. Some may experience instant relief, while others may walk a longer journey through suffering. Regardless of the outcome, the presence of the divine ensures that no suffering is wasted. Every moment of weakness is met with a greater measure of grace, every tear is counted, and every cry is heard. The assurance that healing is not merely about the body but about the soul changes everything. Even in sickness, a person can find strength. Even in pain, they can find peace. The Psalms offer this kind of healing, not just as words of comfort but as living truth that sustains those who cling to them. Healing does not always mean returning to what once was. Sometimes it means becoming something new. Those who have walked through the depths of suffering often emerge with a deeper understanding of life, a greater compassion for others, and a faith that has been tested and refined. The body may carry scars, but the soul carries wisdom. The experience of pain does not diminish a person, it transforms them. The Psalms serve as a reminder that healing is not just about escaping suffering, but about being shaped by it in a way that brings glory to God. While sickness can isolate, the Psalms remind the afflicted that they are never truly alone. They are seen, they are heard, and they are loved beyond measure. Their pain is not ignored and their prayers do not go unanswered. Healing, in whatever form it takes, is always at work. Whether through the restoration of health, the renewal of strength, or the deepening of faith, the hand of God is present. Disease may touch the body, but it does not have the final say over the soul. The Psalms stand as a testament to this truth, offering not just words, but a cure for the deepest wounds of life.